2013 Curriculum Assessment. The Learning and Assessment Guide or PPA is a document that contains principles, strategies, and examples that can guide teachers and educational unit planning, implementing, and evaluating learning and assessment. Assessment is an activity during the learning process to look for evidence of achievement of basic competence. In this guide, learning and assessment constitute one cycle where the assessment provides information about the learning that needs to be designed. In the 2013 curriculum, the government established core competence or basic competence, which are the main reference in developing learning design, especially for inter-curricular activities. This guide facilitates the thinking process in the planning and implementing learning, starting from analyzing basic competence. Next is about target users. 1. Educators. This learning and assessment guide is used as a guide and implementing learning. Number 2 is principal. This guide can be referenced for the function of the principal as an instructional leader. As a learning leader, the principal inspired educators to collaborate and innovate creating change starting in classroom. Number 3 is supervisor are expected to play a role accompanying the school principal. The supervisor and principal discuss and reflect on the learning process, as well as providing inspiring for good principal implementing learning and assessment from the other school. Supervisor can also provide assistance to school principal and education unit, consultation in resolving problems and challenge in learning. Number 4 and last is learning communicates. In this guide can be useful as discussion materials sparking various ideas and learning. Next is how to use the guide. Number 1 is applicable process standards and educational assessment standards. Number 2 is 2013 curriculum learning guide core competence and basic. And number 3 is competence for subjects in 2013 curriculum. What is the implementation of 2013 curriculum? Causes difference between elementary schools and Indonesia. Every elementary school in Indonesia has its own policy on whether or not to continue teaching English subject to its students. There are 4 learning principles and assessment principles. 1 is learning planning and assessment. In planning, learning, and assessment, education need to carry out the analysis of the competence to be achieved, determine learning and assessment objective, and determine the criteria of achieving the learning objectives and assessment. Number 2 is learning implementation in design to provide a quality, interactive, and contextual learning experience. In this cycle, educators are expected to be able to provide learning that is interaction, inspiration, fun, challenging, to motivate students to participate actively, provide sufficient space for initiative, creativity, independence, according to the student talents, interests, and physical and physiological development. And number 2 is implementation of learning assessment. And the last is about learning assessment are expected to measure the aspect that should be measured and are holistic in nature. Assessment can be formative and supermative. Next is about learning principle. Number 1, learning is designed by taking into account the current stage of development and level of assessment of students according to learning needs, and reflection the characteristic and development of different students so that learning becomes meaningful and enjoyable. Number 2 is learning design and implementation to build students' capacity to become lifelong learners. Number 3 is relevant learning, namely learning that is designed according to the context, environment, and culture of students and involving parents and the community as patterns. And the last is learning process supports the development of students' competence and character holistically, and learning is oriented toward a sustainable future. Next is about assessment principle. There are 3. Assessment is an integrated part of learning process, facilitating learning and provide holistic information as feedback as educators lead students and parents or guardians so that it can guide them in determining further learning stages. Number 2, assessment are designed fairly or purposely, fairly, and reliability to explain learning. Number 3 is the result of assessment are used by student educators, education staff, and parents or guardian as reflections material to improve the quality of learning. Number 2, formulate learning objective independently. In this stage of formulating learning objects, educators have not yet sequenced this objective. It is enough to design more operational and concert learning goals first. The sequence of learning objects will be arranged at the next stage. In this way, educators can carry out the process of developing a learning plan step by step. Number 3 is develop a flow of learning objective. 1. Completed over a period of 1 year, not interpreted midway. Number 2 is according to the characteristic and competence for each subject by subject expert, including educators who are expert in that subject. Number 3 is must be logical from simple abilities to more complex ones, influenced by the characteristic of the lessons and the managed approach used. Number 4 is design learning and assessment. The learning plans made by each educator can be different because learning plans are designed taking into account various factors including individual difference between students, the school environment, available learning facilities and infrastructure, and other. Reporting learning results. Reporting is outcomes include attitudes, knowledge, and skills. Attitude reflect an assessment of the Pancasila student profile dimension state in the description or explanations. Number 2 is as outlined in the assessment principle. For the last, following is an activity for completing a report descriptions. Number 1, descriptions is prepared from the description of basic competence. Number 2, description is prepared from the learning projects. And number 3 is important points in the materials. Thank you.